In a world struggling to find clarity in the endless culture wars, the mental health crises, the polarizing media narratives, and the negative news overload, it's easy to forget that humanity may be standing at the edge of one of the most profound discoveries in history. UFO disclosure might be the wild card we need to spark a deep shift in consciousness, helping us recognize our place in a profoundly interconnected universe and opening the door to technologies and ideas that could transform how we address humanity's greatest challenges. The people are rising up to stand for UFO disclosure and to compel our governments to declassify reality. At wanttoknow.info, we've spent more than 20 years educating the public on this fascinating topic, building one of the most extensive information centers and news database on UFO UAP phenomena using only the most credible, verifiable, and reliable information. This is why I've become Minnesota's state coordinator for UFO disclosure, integrating my work as nonprofit director for wanttoknow.info with the powerful work of New Paradigm Institute, which launched the unprecedented global grassroots movement Citizens for Disclosure. In this video, I sit down with my mentor, friend, and founder of New Paradigm Institute, Daniel Sheehan, a Harvard-trained civil rights and constitutional lawyer whose 5-decade career has helped expose abuses of power within the national security state while defending the rights of activists and indigenous communities. Because this goes way beyond mysterious objects in the sky. What's being revealed is a decades-long deliberate suppression of a whole new class of breakthrough technologies, both human and non-human, that defy conventional physics and appear to run on energy sources that don't burn anything, don't emit pollution, and could fundamentally transform how we power our world. Yet these technologies are being secretly repurposed to serve the war economy, powered by fossil fuels. What else will we discover about who we are as humans, who we share this interstellar neighborhood with, and this larger story of humanity unfolding that's greater than any of us, and even more powerful than the darkest forces? Whether you're a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in between, we invite you to join us and suspend certainty for a moment with us, and lean into curiosity and wonder. How do we keep articulating the new worldview that can guide us in co-creating the world we want to see? What is the story that can bring us all together? And as Martin Luther King Jr. once asked, how do we become the creative dissenters who will call our beloved world to a higher destiny, to a new plateau of compassion, and to a more noble expression of humanness? With everything going on, there's just so much fear about what's to come. Like, why UFOs to you? Why is this the most important topic?
I've spent 50 years working on different aspects of the national security state and the excesses of the national security state, both internationally and domestically. And I came to the realization that the most egregious violation of everybody's most profound fundamental rights on the part of the national security state is the fact that there's an extraterrestrial civilization all around our solar system, and that there's other sentient species here in right in our own galaxy that are coming and going from our planet. And it turns out that members of the national security state have had direct face-to-face contact and engagement with some of these beings, and that they possess all kinds of information, the beings, that would be of extraordinary benefit for our human family. So I concluded that this is a place to direct lots of attention, get people together, all collectively demanding information from the national security state, to turn this information over to Congress, to get Congress to establish a panel to review all of these documents and to determine which of these can be revealed to the public as of right now, but that there's a process underway pursuant to which all the information is going to be revealed in a reasonably short period of time, during which we are going to be able to adjust our economic structures, our geopolitical structures, some of our religious institutions and beliefs about the capacities of our human body and our relationship to the extraterrestrial beings. And all of this is an extraordinarily exciting process.
Everyone's appropriately paying attention to the insiders that have testified to Congress in recent years, but there's such a long history of UFO activity around nuclear missiles, shutting down nuclear missiles.
That's right.
You've had people right before they die coming out with affidavits and testimonies and even books about their involvement in these programs.
That's right.
And so there really is this whole history. You have the technology piece where defense contractors, the same ones that are profiting from war and suffering all over the world, allegedly having access and having reverse engineered a lot of this craft. So that's one.
Yes.
The second one is the environmental concern where a lot of these reported UAPs defy conventional understanding of reality. There's no propulsion system, no visible signs of any pollution that's emitted, and that tells us that it's a radical energy source that could provide clean, unlimited, abundant energy, but it's being repurposed for warfare purposes. Alternatively to the use of it for warfare purposes, we're talking about desalination being scaled up so that we wouldn't have water scarcity.
That's right.
Transportation could be clean. All the fears about AI and blockchain would be alleviated because it earns, it's such energy guzzling tech, when we have technology that could provide clean, unlimited, abundant energy.
Sure.
These technologies could improve life and even challenge the doom and gloom apocalyptic narratives that drive the mainstream climate change narratives.
That's right.
And then the last one is the consciousness piece.
Yeah.
What we're finding is that the reported UAPs don't often have buttons, they don't have conventional interfaces, so there's something about consciousness that's being used to operate the UAP, and now even whistleblowers like Jake Barber alleging that there are psychics being employed in covert levels of government to operate and summon the craft.
That's right.
Which could provide a window into who we are, our consciousness, and what we're capable of. So there's all these different pieces, right?
All the above.
Yeah.
All the above.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. So you just sort of take them one at a time. But the order of priority, I think the consciousness one is the most important of all of them. But if you start at that level, people kind of blank out on you so you start at the more prosaic level of, there's alternative technology here. There's some technology involved in these craft. And it turns out that our war machine is grasping onto these UFOs, bringing them down forcibly and trying to reverse engineer their technology so they can make a delivery platform, kind of an instantaneous delivery platform for our thermonuclear weapons so they can establish full spectrum military dominance over the planet, all for the purpose of securing and maintaining their continued privileged access to the strategic raw materials needed by the major corporations of the country. One of the things that's flummoxing them still is what they call psionics. There's some technology has been discovered by these extraterrestrial beings pursuant to which they can transmit the psychic communication capability of telepathy into communicating with the machines. There's some fiber optic wiring, but there's also synapses in dendrites that are apparently from the brains of the other beings.
Wow.
Have been integrated into the craft, so the craft is in a sense semi-sentient.
Is there a component of these non-human craft that has to do with consciousness, or at least a field of consciousness that perhaps humans can tap into, and maybe all beings in the universe can tap into? The ability to go into something like a meditative state and summon UAP and pilot UAP. That is real. That's 100% real.
And did you see that happen?
Yes, I did.
What would be revealed would totally destroy an economy that was designed by certain capitalists in this country a long, long time ago to maintain them and their corporations from here to eternity. I think oil has a special interest in seeing that it maintains its position where it is, regardless of what kind of pollution, regardless of what disastrous side effects may have occurred. What we're dealing with is we're dealing with certain electromagnetic devices. These sources would mean free power, and free power is something that corporations panic about, and I think this government panics about it. How are you going to tax free power? The sources of energy that keep these vehicles in propulsion are sources of energy that are just as free can be. and they don't cause any harm to the environment. They don't cause any footprints to be left anywhere.
And the problem is the military people look at this and they say, wow, this would make a great weapon to fight over limited resources, rather than understanding that this means that there's ample resources in the galaxy that we could have access to, but that's completely contrary to our economic theories of scarcity and capitalism and being able to get an advantage over others by seizing larger portions of a limited set of resources. Our job at the New Paradigm Institute is to try to get started on how we can, step by step, amend our present structures and institutions to accommodate this larger information and make a happy existence for our civilization and have a mutually beneficial relationship with the extraterrestrial beings, and move into an entire new age. Once you realize that there are tens of billions of stars just in our galaxy, and that they've got planets around them, and some 20% of them have planets in the Goldilocks zone where they can have liquid water and they can have life forms on their planet. This is an abundant future. But of course, the people that are in charge of the institutions right now, especially those who benefit uniquely from the institutions right now, genuinely are afraid of this.
Yeah.
They're terrified about this. This is going to be altering a lot of the major institutions on our planet. I've been at this for like 50 years, and I finally got to the point of saying, look, I'm 80 years old. So I've got another 10 years of active life at least before I get to relax and write books and hang out at St. John in the Virgin Islands and finally kick back a little bit and try to enjoy the world a little bit more than I get to do right now. So I said, look, we better get to this. Let's get down on this thing. And so when I was meeting with Lou Elizondo, Lou reached out to me to ask me to legally represent him in crafting his complaint to the Inspector General of the Defense Department about the fact that they were lying to Congress, they were committing perjury, that they were engaged in all types of criminal activity, embezzling funds from appropriated funds in Congress into the secret funds, to expand the nature of the complaint that he was going to file with them so that we could begin a disclosure process. Okay? And so we began the meetings with the Inspector General of the Defense Department and astonished him. He was just thunderstruck by the reality of this whole thing, that he'd been lied to and had been concealed from him.
Most sitting presidents, right?
That's right. That's right. I said, well, why should you get it to know if the president doesn't know? So we went through this whole process, and then Lou played a very major part, as everyone knows, in helping to open this up along with Chris Mellon in getting other people to come forward, like David Grush, to come forward and start sharing this information in a way that we could initiate this disclosure process to accelerate it, actually, because they've been leaking out little drips and drabs down over the 80-year period, but like any institution, they're way behind on the need for change.
A lot of people are concerned that by relying on these people within government, within high levels of military intelligence coming out, that they may carry a seed of truth, but it's like a limited hangout where they give us a piece of the truth to conceal a larger truth. Many people don't fully know what to trust. And then you have Marco Rubio, head of National Archives right now. And National Archives is the institutional body to receive all of the records that are supposed to be turned over to them by all the branches of military intelligence. So how much trust can people put in these government officials to truly act in the interests of the public?
Very little. Is the answer. But so what we have to do is have the people ourselves get educated. That's what the Citizens for Disclosure is all about, is trying to get people to exercise their responsibilities as citizens, to learn about this extraordinarily important issue. And then we have to deal with the question of whether or not there's a PSYOPs operation going on with them, the national security state people having reverse engineered these craft and are flying these craft around to try to give people the false impression that they're seeing extraterrestrial UFOs. We have to come to grips with that. That's why the New Paradigm Institute has arisen up out of the Christic Institute, out of the Romero Institute, that have done cases like the Pentagon Papers case, the Iran-Contra case, the Karen Silkwood case, that we're the ones that have busted these lies in the past. And we've figured figured out what the truth of the matter is, and we've laid it out to people. We're trying to find out what's true, okay? And we're sharing that kind of lift together. And that's going to bring our human family together so that we can actually rise to the highest levels of our capacity. Each individual has to ask herself or himself the same thing. How many times have you actually gone and sat down in a field and tried to open yourself up to the stars and actually reach out to dare to actually attempt to communicate with the extraterrestrial beings? People still don't even do that. They're going, oh, I don't want to look like a fool, or I don't want to feel like a fool, or I don't do this kind of thing. And so that all of this is an individual thing, too, that we have to deal with our own sense of consciousness, our own confidence in what it is that we get as information and act upon it. And then when each of us starts to have the courage to do this type of thing, then we can share that kind of courage with each other, and we can, in our Citizens for Disclosure groups, get together and gather together, 10, 15, 20 people, go out into a field under the nighttime sky, bring your little long chairs and sit and have a kind of a collective meditative state of reaching out and communicate, inviting the beings to come and share the information with us. And lo and behold, it happens. It actually happens. And I've talked to dozens of people that have been there when this happens. Not just a dancing light in the sky somewhere, but a full craft will appear. And people go, what do you know? It's really true. And when they become completely certain that it's true, no matter how much they, quote, believe it, once they know it, by this happening to them, they shift into the whole next gear.
I've studied this topic extensively now because I need to know what's real, and being able to find what is trustworthy and what is real is very important to me. And after all of my looking with this topic, I've come to realize that anyone who wants to quickly label this movement as a psyop is part of the problem, because ultimately the very existence of this issue and what it's doing to help people move beyond fear and into awe and wonder is very healing for our society. And it's a gateway, it's a permission slip for us to think deeper about the world we live in, instead of getting caught up in all the culture wars that get us endlessly distracted by issues that may not even be relevant in a year, and that there's something deeper that's driving all of what we're doing here, because now we know that science suggests that consciousness doesn't end when the body dies, that we might be part of something much larger, and that on some level we chose to be here. And I do think that a society that can self-heal, self-regulate, and access deeper layers of perception is harder to manipulate through fear. And if we knew that we could be independent of centralized energy systems, who would we be without artificial scarcity? And so these are beautiful questions that I think can remind us of what's possible, that we do have agency. There are specific directions. So the first one is the political advocacy.
There's a bill that has been drafted. There's a 58-page bill that actually, very importantly, shifts the authority of establishing the review board into the hands of Congress. We've not only drafted the bill, but we've written all the legal briefs that show that under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 14, that the Congress is invested with the constitutional authority to decide what is going to be classified or declassified. It's not the executive branch. They don't have to sit back and wait for the president to make a decision, or the national security state people to give them security clearances in order to be told what they're willing to tell them. The citizens have to take over our own government. We've got to stand up and we've got to elect representatives to go to Washington, to be in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, who are going to fulfill their duty. And what they're going to do is they're going to pass a statute that orders the executive branch to turn over all of this information, like now, into the hands of this review board. Then the decisions are going to be made by Congress itself, not by the board, but by Congress. That once the board decides, here's some information that we think ought to be made available to the other members of Congress, they'll hand that question to the Congress. They'll vote on it and say, yes, this is going to be made available. It'll be made available to the Intelligence Committee, or to the Armed Services Committee, to the Oversight Committee. It'll be made available to the Foreign Affairs Committee to try to figure out what kind of foreign affairs, that kind of diplomatic relations are we going to have with this civilization. Not when they feel like it, not as soon as they think is possible, because we've witnessed now for 2 years. They're doing like nothing. Okay, the House Oversight Committee has the responsibility for overseeing the executive branch.
Classifying and
Okay?
declassifying. Right?
And that's right. We've got hearings going on in the Congress. We've got a whole task force set up inside the House Oversight Committee, working specifically on this UFO issue. We are now organizing to mobilize the people, educate the people, do the opening statements to the people, present the evidence to the people, call upon them for their verdict, and that they're going to communicate that information to their representatives now. And if those representatives don't respond, they're going to replace them with people who will. And when those people do that, and the Congress stands up against the national security state, and the national security state pushes back, then Congress is going to have to be courageous enough to go to the judicial branch and get the judicial branch to order them to do this. And if they're in contempt of Congress and in contempt of the court, then they will send U.S. Marshals. They'll send U.S. Marshals to them, and they will place them under arrest. And they will prosecute them under the Federal Criminal Racketeering Act, which is RICO. And we're also drafting that complaint. We have a 100-page draft of the Federal Criminal Racketeering Act complaint already, and we're filling in the people that are in the positions that are going to be prosecuted. Okay, and then we've got also the bill has in it the amount of immunity that's going to be given to certain witnesses, not blanket immunity to everybody, not amnesty to everybody, where they're all sitting there lobbying away for getting amnesty for everybody. What we've got to do is we've got to bring the constitutional structures of our government, our law enforcement structures of our government, our Justice Department people, doing what it is they're constitutionally required to do. And we're going to be able to demonstrate not only to the world that democracy can work, has not yet worked, but can work, and demonstrate to the ET people that we, in fact, can rise above these kind of petty divisions among ourselves, and that we can merit citizenship with them.
The challenging part is that we have to create something more powerful than the blackmail state and just all the ways in which many, or maybe even most of our elected leaders have been compromised on all levels of power.
Yes.
We'd have to create something more powerful than that. Yet the good news is that whatever happens, this topic is a true consciousness shift that is needed for humanity beyond holding people accountable for lying and covering up this information, that there's something much larger that's driving this movement.
We've got to reach out and engage in the disclosure process for the people from the extraterrestrial planets and talk with them, communicate with them, find out what it is that their agenda is, make sure that we're smart, we're not going to fall prey to being subjected to domination by them or by any one of them that may have ulterior motives. We need to establish the outreach to other citizens from China, from Russia, from India, from all of the countries in Europe, and all the indigenous people, and all work together to pull ourselves up and reach out into the next age for our human family. Because the bottom line is we're going to evolve into the next stage of our species. And this is the process that we're going through right now. This is a faith undertaking, but it's not some weird cult of some kind. This is true spirituality. It's true faith. The nature of reality,
literally declassifying reality.
That's right.
And opening up to the world we actually live in.
That is right.
Thank you so much, Danny. This has been a joy and a delight to sit here with you and further the mission.
Well, I'm glad you were in the neighborhood.
Love Santa Cruz. Woohoo! Good job. Yes. If this video resonated with you, please like, comment, engage, subscribe, and share this work widely. Join us in being part of a global team of loving, courageous people dedicated to transformation on this planet.